So hello everyone. Heartful Connections welcomes you all to this webinar. It's called Two of a Kind. Um, Chetan and I will be moderating this conversation along with Ms. Kanjan Kulkarni. She is a relationship and transformative coach, um, and she works with women to help them reform their relationships or any stresses that they may experience within any sort of interpersonal relationship. So, we are going to have a conversation with her about navigating through the starting of the marriage journey. And
and this is because we have recently gotten married, me and Icha, and we have embarked on this journey. And we decided to come here and share our experience and talk through a very natural, free-flowing conversations with Kanchan. So I would like to invite now Ms. Kanchan here.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you both?
We are good. It's so good to see you.
Yes, same here. Same here. It's lovely to be here. So you guys are married. How did it go?
It was a journey. It was really a journey, but you know, it was a mixed bag of stuff. I can tell you a little bit about where I was coming from, and then Chetan can talk about his experience. So, you know, just I'm sure that now whoever's watching this will be audience, right? They're in the process of starting, and it can be really scary initially. You know, it's overwhelming. There's a lot of different things that you need to keep in mind. So it was a struggle for me. It took a while to, you know, be able to understand, first of all, what I wanted from a relationship and then to take it further. So Chetan and I, we obviously know each other through Heartfulness. We got to know each other through Heartfulness. And one of our mutual friends, actually, it suddenly struck him that, oh, okay, maybe this could work. So Chetan and I started speaking sometime around end of August last year. And somehow, like, our conversations just went really well. And it was very easy to talk to him, you know. So it wasn't as nerve-wracking. There were things that I was initially very nervous to do, but somehow with him it was like really comfortable. So I just went with it. Like, I didn't think too much. And a month down the line, we had maybe two video calls, and then he just happened to be coming to India during that time. So we met in Delhi, and he had planned to go to Kanha, and my parents were also going. So they're like, why don't you also come along? So we met in Kanha as well. And it was, I think, in that environment, it just makes it like really easy to sort of figure things out, and it's not as like chaotic. But we ended up speaking to our parents spoke to each other, we spoke to each other, and we decided, okay, yeah, we're happy for this to go ahead. This works. And the next day we said, okay, let's go tell Taji, you know, like, we should tell him. So we went, and we were called in the morning to the office, just behind the meditation hall. And we were waiting there for a while. And that day, he came just in the nick of time for meditation. So we had about 5 seconds, right? So he came in, he saw us, and my father had informed him that, you know, they're happy to take this forward. And he looked at us and he said, do you want to get married tomorrow? And I just looked at him. I didn't understand what to do. So I just like laughed. I was like, is this really what's happening? And we had some more conversations about that. And eventually we decided that's probably the best thing to do, because, you know, why wait? When you know. So that's how this whole thing started. And ever since then, he's been in Germany. I've been in Delhi. yeah, we've kind of been finding ways to manage it. So
yeah, thank you for your part. So pretty much I have the same story, because would be weird if it was different, right?
yeah.
Would be a different person.
It could be from a different perspective, yes, but it's great that it's the same.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the same. It was in a way shocking but handleable when Daji said that you want to get married tomorrow. We couldn't do it the next day, but we did it 2 days after.
Yeah.
And then we were 6 months apart. This sense of security was there when we got married, and I went back to Germany. And it was sense of ease that, yeah, there is somebody that is now connected well through the heart with me, and we are together in this for our lifetimes. And yeah, and then I came back and we got married again in a gurdwara, which was this some time ago.
Yeah.
So this was our very roller coaster story of getting married 2 times within a span of 7 months.
Yeah.
Well, it's a wonderful story for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. There was a lot
You
of
both look very happy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say after listening to the both of you would be that you seem surprised that it was easy and you did know. And, so what are your thoughts around that process in terms of why were you surprised that you met a person and it was not difficult? Where does that narrative of it should be difficult, it's never going to be this easy, these things don't happen in this world, where does that narrative come from for both of you?
So this is a question that I've really had a lot of time to reflect on. So, I think if this whole narrative of it not being easy, or things will not work out, or how do you know that you can deal with all the good things and the flaws at the same time, it comes from a lot of different places. Like, it could come from things that you've seen in your own life with like your friends, or even with family members, or with certain things that you watch, right? So there's a lot of different things that are adding to these ideas, and obviously then your own personal experiences. So for me personally, I'm not a very I'm on the face of it, I'm an easy person to get along with. Like, I'll talk to people nicely and stuff, but it's very difficult for me to open up, and it's very difficult to let people in. So obviously with that, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety that comes with it. And throughout that whole process, it was like, how do I know that I'm portraying, like when I was talking to people, I used to think, how do I know that I'm portraying the side of myself that I can sustain for a long time, or for practically my whole life, or will they be able to accept it, or will I be able to deal with what they have to offer? So there was a lot of like up and down, but I think for me, all of those experiences combined made it easier for me to talk to him about it and just be honest. It helped me sort of come to terms with where I am in life and just the kind of person that I am. And for me also, that question of how do you know, right? Like, when you know. Every time I would ask somebody, they would just say, yeah, you'll just know. You'll just feel it. I was like, no, but how? Like, and you need to give me something tangible. So I was able to figure out what it was for me, like something that you can actually, like something solid. And it was, when there's like a bunch of thoughts that are screaming at you, it's usually your mind, right? Because your mind is the loudest thing within the system. So with all the fears, all the doubts, all the anxiety, all the tension, right? It's screaming multiple things at you, different scenarios, and it's taking you through like, really intense ups and downs. But throughout that whole process, I was experiencing all of that. I really, like, my head was in a mess. But throughout all of it, I had this like really soft, it was a very soft and subtle feeling of, okay, it's, I'm at ease. It's okay. Like, okay, all of this is happening, but I'm also like comfortable with him. So in that moment, when Daji said, okay, do you want to get married tomorrow? We had satsang right after that. His experience of satsang, I'll let him talk about it if he's okay with it. I was completely knocked out. Like, there was no awareness of anything. I lost all consciousness. I was like, okay, that's it. Like, I'm not here. And when I got out of meditation, my mom had called me and she said, listen, you need to come here because, you and Chetan have to talk. And I was like, okay, so this actually happened. I was like, all right, this is real. I was like, okay, I have to go back now. So I went, I sat with him, and we spent maybe 10 minutes talking. And in those 10 minutes, I don't remember what he said, but he said something and suddenly my mind stopped shouting. And I decided, okay, this is it. Like, this is happening. So I decided to follow that sense of ease and that very soft sense of comfort. And I just said, okay, let's do it. Let's see where it goes. So that's how I knew. What about you?
Yeah. For me, everything actually happened when I wasn't even looking for anybody. So I would say this was a gift, like unexpected gift. It was a surprise, and as our master Daji says, follow your heart. Right from the first proposal, I felt, okay, give it a chance. Let's see what happens, and it starts from there. That, okay, step by step. I had my own apprehensions. There were certain things that I did not want. Like Icha says that she was like, how do I know if this is the one? For me, it was, how do I know that this is not the one? So I took the opposite approach, that what are the things or what are the qualities in a person that will not work for me? I respect all people that are out there and their opinions and their judgments and everything that they do and their choices. It's great diversity. But does everything work with me? No. So there were a few things that I couldn't do with it. So on our video calls, I asked ruthless questions to her. Are you this? Are you that? What will you do in this situation? What will you do in that situation? And she answered effortlessly. All her answers were just so genuine, so touching to the heart. And I felt my feeling of the heart, give it a chance, got reinforced again and again. So you see, there is no magic pill. Like, often we think we follow spirituality and there will be a magic pill. There is no magic pill. One has to work it out. One has to find out, why does it work for me? What would it needed to be done that it would work for me? And I tried to follow that. And as she said, and slowly with these questions, it worked out. And then in the satsang, now specifically, excuse me for this, but I think I have to say it. This is for all the boys and my brothers who's going to listen. When Daji said that you want to get married tomorrow, I was super scared. As a man, I was super scared. Like, in the sense that, okay, what did he just say? Then there are so many things come into your mind. You have to follow what your master says. You have to surrender to him, this, that. What if it doesn't come from the heart? What if it doesn't work? All these shouting that she's saying from her side, these shoutings were from my side in a different way. But when I sat for the satsang, I wasn't knocked out, but I was integrated. It felt as if the energy of the master made me integrate together. It felt like he said, hold yourself together, bring yourself together, be courageous, stand firm. And then there's a strong gut. My gut became stronger, somehow. And then I tried to find the higher purpose of this, that, okay, why is this noble? Why is this noble to do? And that's what we talked in the 10 minutes, which apparently hit her very hard. It was only this. I asked her, forget yourself for a moment. Think of the noble purpose of this marriage. Think of this more than you. It's not just about you. It's about more than you. It's about more than us. It's about the future generation. It's about the future that we are going to develop. It's about the beautiful world that we need to develop. There are so many narcissists going around. We need to develop more compassionate people. You and me being compassionate, we will become much better. So when this helped me, I thought this might help her as well to process this, that, okay, this is just not about you, right? It's about more than us. So yeah, that was my journey to think, okay, this is right. This is not me. I don't need to be selfish. We don't need to be selfish and think of something more. And if this is the right person, which I felt with my ruthless questions. So yeah, that was when we decided.
Yeah. That's wonderful. There are so many things that kind of have been in play while obviously you guys have been talking about your story. There are a lot of different things that you have done, probably unconsciously, that maybe we can discuss because it would help somebody else understand. So I'd like to deconstruct some of the things that you guys have talked about. Coming into a relationship, like we talked about, what really influences your idea and your thinking, your conditioning prior to going into a relationship, right? It's going to be tough. I'm not going to meet the person I want. Life is not a fairy tale. So we have all of these belief systems, and these belief systems, like you said, Isha, come from obviously seeing other relationships, family members, just the environment around us. What kind of relationships are we observing around us? Are they happy relationships? Are people struggling? So the idea of marriage, the idea of relationships really come from our environment, because we're constantly seeing things, even if we are not aware that we're absorbing it. At some point when we are at that stage to have that relationship, we'll be like, okay, what do I know about relationships? And you may have had it, you may not have had it. If you haven't had a relationship, you'll go completely to your external environment. If you have had relationships, then you will go to your past experience to say, I was not the kind of person who believed that this is what relationships are about. I had my own ideas, but even I struggled with mine. So it's a combination of things to say, oh, what people say is true. So that kind of reaffirms what the external environment is telling you. Yeah, you're basically brave enough to say, it's not going to happen with me because I'm different. Yeah. But then if it does happen with you, you say, oh, I don't know anything about myself. People are right. I was naive, I was wrong. So what happens is you're starting to now distance yourself from your inner intuition. Your experiences, if they're matching these ideas about relationships and how tough it is and how much you're going to struggle, if that you really have that experience yourself, then you're like, people are right, I'm wrong. Yeah. And what do I know about relationships? So it's reaffirming the negative. So then when you go into this idea of, at some point you say, you know what, no, I do want to get married, I do want to find somebody, you're going back to yourself and saying, no, let me try again. But this time you have this wall, you have this past experience, and saying, okay, I can't be as naive as I was in the beginning. I've got to be a bit more careful and shit. And that's where I know what I don't want. I've got to kind of come up with what I don't want. So how do you know you don't want these things? Because you've either seen it on somebody else struggling with those things, or you've struggled with them in your own relationship in the past, if you've had one, right? So both of you are coming from completely different places, but with very similar ideas of what the relationship is going to be, but you're still ready to try. So where does that come in from? That comes in from you. You're not that jaded. You don't believe things are supposed to be that bad. You still have trust and faith, but you're a bit scared. So that's where your anxiety and your fear and all of those things that you mentioned, Netra, come from. Like, is this real? How will I know? That's your barrier. So this time it's like, I have this filter, I have this wall around me. I still want a relationship. I still want to find love, but I'm not so naive anymore.
Yeah.
So you're going to be a bit more careful. And that is this mask that you talked about, that I'm going to go out there and present a version of myself, which is anxious, which is scared, which is not really me, because the real me believes in love, believes in fairy tales, believes in relationships. I want this man. I want this to happen to me. I want the Cinderella story. I want my Prince Charming. I want all of it. But come on, I'm not that naive anymore, right? I'm not that little girl anymore who believes in those fairy tales. I've been in the real world. I've had the real issues. I've had my heart broken. So I'm going to tread carefully. Yes. So your fears and your anxiety and all of those things are coming from that. Whether you, as I said, even if you've not had a bad breakup, it's coming from what you're seeing on the outside. Because now as adults, we are taught that we're in the real world. Don't act like a child.
Yeah.
So at some point, right, we develop this. When we are kids, we don't have it. When we are kids, we don't know what is self, what is other, what is mask, what is kind of pretending to be somebody else. I'm just me. And it's only when I get punished for being me, when I get told, don't do this, girls don't do it this way, boys have to look after their families. Chetan, your anxiety comes up with, oh my God, now, it just got real. Now I'm an adult. Now I'm really kind of getting married. Like, what's happening? I can't be this bachelor. I can't do my own thing. I'm taking this responsibility. So both of you are coming from a lot of the things that you're mentioning is this conditioning that we are all taught. And that is what takes us away from this beautiful, amazingly kind of pure, unadulterated, unconditional being that we come as. Yeah. So we have to rebuild this relationship back with ourselves. We have to find out who we are to go back in. And then when you meet this other person who gets you, where you don't have to pretend anymore. So you start with pretending, obviously, because there's no trust there, but you're hoping there's trust there. So you start by taking these baby steps. And then, like you said, Chetan, I'm asking her the tough questions to see what her answers are going to be. So that's your litmus test. Is she going to pass my test? Then only I will let her in. Yeah. For you, Icha, you're like, who is going to tolerate my no-nonsense attitude? I'm only going to take this further with somebody who's going to accept me as I am. Because you know what? I'm done pretending. So even if you both have come from completely different paths, you're still looking for the same thing. Yeah. You're still asking and wanting. You are two people who want the same thing. Yeah. So when you meet, coming from two completely different places, different paths, different perspectives. You, Chetan, saying, let me ask her the tough questions. You saying, who's going to be able to accept my tough answers? Yeah. That's the match. Yeah. Finding your person requires you to understand what you want first. It's never about the other person. It's never about, oh, you know what? This is my wish list. A lot of people go out and they create this amazing list of who they want their partner to be. But what about who you are in that relationship? Who are you going to be in that relationship? What if you get this wonderful partner, but you don't have the qualities that he or she want? Right? So the combination, the feeling right factor comes in like when your expectations are met. And these expectations are your internal expectations, which come from you knowing what you want. It's never about the other person, right? So you could meet somebody and that person could be amazing, could be, wonderful, but just not for you. Yeah. Because they didn't give you the right answers. Yeah. They didn't do what kind of really appealed to you. When you meet somebody who says exactly what you want to hear without you telling them, so this is not relationships where I see couples and it's like the guys usually come in and say, just tell me what you want. Women are so difficult.
Yeah.
And then the woman will be like, if I tell you, then what's the point? Because then you just do it because I told you, not because you want to. So we have this, it's finding the person who kind of says what you want without being told what to say.
Yeah. Yeah. And it happens very naturally as well, I think. And that is after you understand yourself, because it just makes the process a lot easier, I feel. I mean, yeah, he knew aspects about himself as well, and what he didn't want. And then I think through conversations he started realizing that, okay, this is kind of what I wanted, this works. And then I think for me, I think there have been so many different, different events that just sort of coincided, that at one point I kind of just I lost the idea of why am I doing this? Like, why am I getting married? If it's not happening, just like, I was really at a point where, okay, I'm happy to be single for the rest of my life. It's fine. It's no big deal. But that sense of it was like a sense of acceptance that, okay, this is the situation, right? And it's okay. And that sense of acceptance for whatever the situation is, whether you're meeting people, it's not working out, whether you feel like, okay, you're at the brink of being done, or whether things are not working out and you still have a lot of hope, like, really truly accepting it is like a very liberating feeling, because it takes such a huge weight off your shoulders, and it gives you the space that you need to think. So after that happened, I think for some time I was like in that state where I was like, it's okay. Like, I know it's not going to happen. It's fine. Let it go. It's cool. But then eventually I started catching myself thinking of, okay, but these are certain qualities that I have. Like, I know I'm very nurturing. I know I'm very caring. I know I'm very understanding as well. But then also I want somebody who doesn't take advantage of that leverage that I give them. And I started also breaking down certain expectations that I had, how I would see it, or how the other person would experience it, or how they would. So I altered a lot of those things, and also my attitude to myself. That was like a huge thing that I changed, and I think he saw it. Like, obviously he didn't know what came before that, but when we met and when we spoke, he saw that there was a certain confidence that I had within myself, for whatever it was, whether it's who I was as a person, or when I was giving my answers to him. I didn't like shy away, which a lot of people may think is probably the right thing, because he asked me really controversial questions. Like, when he says tough questions, he really means it. They were difficult, but I think all of that sort of culminated in me having that space to just unapologetically say what I feel, without without the fear of, oh shit, what if this doesn't work out? Oh my God, what will I do if I lose him? So it was a very liberating feeling, just sort of accepting where you're at, who you are, and your strengths, and even your limitations. I was well aware of mine, so, and I was completely honest with him about it as well. So it helps, it really does.
Yeah, what I'd like to say here is that the honesty helps because he was looking for honesty.
Yeah.
So none of these situations, from my experience, are absolute. There's no one formula that's going to work for everybody.
Absolutely.
So when we look at the story is your reason why it worked. So if we go down one layer, we look at what exactly made it work. And there are two things, right? So there are some people who would say, you know what, keep your honesty to yourself. Maybe you're just too honest for me. I don't need it. I'd like you to not be dishonest. So now if you are saying, but this is who I am, this is what I want, and you are going into a relationship with a person who's very clearly telling you, this is who I am, and this is not what I want. And you both still come together thinking, oh, this is not that big an issue. I can continue to be honest because according to me, honesty is a good trait. Why should I lose that? and your partner is telling you you're too honest, maybe sometimes your honesty is painful and hurtful and you're being cruel. And I don't like that level of honesty, because it's really not honesty, it's you're opinionated and you believe that your opinion is the only thing that counts. So I feel unseen, I feel unheard in the relationship. Now you're talking about the same concept of honesty really not working.
Yeah.
So it's how we label things, because when we label something as a positive, like honesty, let's say that I think I'm very caring, like you said, I think I'm very nurturing. What is nurturing according to you may not be nurturing for your partner. Maybe you're over nurturing. Maybe you're just like constantly like, I'll do this for you, I'll do that for you. And your partner says, I don't need you to do all of these things for me. So what we need to understand is not about taking certain characteristics, which is where the conditioning comes in. There are, we see all these ads and we see all these relationships and we hear all these stories and we have these fairy tales, which kind of talk about Prince Charming is going to come, you're going to know, sparks are going to fly, you're going to feel the butterflies in your stomach, and you're going to live happily ever after.
Yeah.
That is why the real world, as we call it, is so tough, because that's not the story. The story is, yes, who is your Prince Charming and who is your Cinderella, right? What are you bringing to the table in order for you to be the kind of partner that attracts the person that you want? Because you both are individuals and you're coming with your own set of expectations. And we can't just put these expectations into a box and mix them together and say, yeah, it's going to work, because that's what most people do. It takes the first one or two things, this person kind of looks the way I want, speaks the way I want. But then when you get into the relationship, what about the rest of it? Oh, it's okay. We'll kind of figure it out over time.
Yeah.
So the beginning of the relationship is the best time to figure it out. Because that is exactly where both of you are going in and saying, is this the person I want? If both of you have this mask on, then once the relationship actually starts, you're like, but that's not who you were. I didn't expect you to be like that. This is not how you were when we first met. This is not what you said when we were first together. So you see where it's starting to now not work out.
Yeah.
And these conversations that you guys have had are so important. They are the foundation of a relationship. Ask the tough questions. Figure it out before you decide to get into a relationship where the tough questions are going to get much tougher.
Yeah.
If you're not asking about questions around family and money and children, and career, what's going to happen when you get married? You have to deal with family. You are going to have to deal with finances. You are going to think about kids.
Yeah.
You do have a career. What's going to happen then? So it's great that you guys did it. I really commend you for having these conversations and figuring this out, whether consciously or unconsciously. But really, for me, I'd like to highlight these points because that's important for any couple to do.
So a short comment here on what you said, Kanchan. I'm not a psychologist. I think you both are, and you are experts of your fields. But here and there I read about it because I'm a little bit interested in it. And what I understand is there is a core personality of each person that they have, and these are core values that each one of us have. So with the intention of the questions was not to ask her that, oh, what do you like to eat? Or where do you like to go to enjoy? Or what games do you like to play? No. I asked them later. I did ask them to keep them fun and light, but I asked the questions that you said. What are you going to do if we have one kid or two kids and you can't sleep and I'm at work? Like, what are you going to do if there is a conflict at home? How are you going to react? So I was trying to find out put her in a situation and find out what her core personality is. What her
How
core
did you know those questions were important? Because they are important to you. So
Yes.
finding out someone's core personality comes from knowing your own. So even if you came through this from a process of elimination of what you don't want rather than what you do want, you're still connected to who you are. Because what you're saying is these things are deal breakers. The rest of the stuff we can figure out. And that's really what a relationship is. So you don't want to go into a relationship having everything figured out. But what you guys are talking about is figuring out the deal breakers. That's so important. And that is one thing people shy away from because they don't want to know the answer. And like Isha said, like they get so attached to each other that now the fear of losing each other kind of stops them from asking these questions, the tough questions, which they have to face later on. So that's why they ask about what do you drink and where do you like, what movies do you like and what restaurants do you want to go to? Because that's the easy stuff. That's the fun stuff, like you said, right? They're like, let's not go to the tough stuff. We'll figure it out later on. When we get to know each other better, we'll figure it out. So what you're doing right now is already looking at a customized option. I like this part of this person. I like the fun stuff. I like the easy stuff. I'm going to kind of change this person with the tough stuff. I'm going to make them what I want them to be. Are you going to be what they want to be? Are you going to become the person they want you? So who's going to have the upper hand in customizing these options? One of you will get it. That's where compromise comes in. That is why compromise never works. Compromise is where one person is happy and the other person backs down to say, wait till I have the upper hand. I'm going to come and get you. And that's where you kind of are constantly trying to take this power back from each other.
Yeah. Actually, we talked about this called resentment. Yeah, we talked about this that when you want something and you don't get it in a relationship and you're constantly being told about something, then you develop resentment. And that's a very poisonous feeling to have. I really we both came down on the same level on this, that let's make our core personalities in front of each other right now, so that in future we do not have any kind of resentment for each other. कि ये तो ऐसी है, मेरे को तो पता नहीं था, I'm so resenting this. It's a poison. It's poison.
Yeah, I think that conversation in specific was quite tough to have, and we had, I mean, he just helped me sort of dive into it, because our video calls were really, even our video calls were filled with all these questions. Like neither of us shied away from it. But then when we had this specific conversation, when we met in person for the first time, and a lot of it stemmed from, it could be, there could be bigger issues as well that lead to resentment, of course, where you're consistently, one person is like compromising, or the relationship feels like it's just a compromise all the way through. But it could also be for smaller things, like, like lifestyle choices, or certain like differences in habits, or, just like small differences in mindsets as well. So for me, this was a tough thing to talk about. But for whatever reason, it doesn't coincide very well with, I mean, I'm a little different from, the norm or whatever within Heartfulness. So it was rather tough. But at that point also, that, like I said, the acceptance, like, okay, if this happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I cannot overpromise anything, because I don't want him to feel like, okay, like she's doing this just for me, or I didn't want to feel like, okay, I'm doing this just because he's asking, and then tomorrow, like 2-3 years down the line, I say I did this for you. Like, I didn't want that to come in. So I think both of us were also very clear on the things that we cannot do for each other right now, and what we are happy to do as well. So And it wasn't like a one conversation fix either. It was a series of conversations that we had at several points. But what I think mattered the most in that moment is both of our abilities to genuinely listen to each other and try and understand where the other person is coming from. Because if someone has a certain mindset or a certain attitude towards something, there has to be a reason behind it. So the minute that understanding comes for that reason, it makes it so much easier to navigate through that conversation. And it makes it easier also to not hold, like, not have like a snap response, like, oh my God, how can you say that to me? Like, this really put me off, or whatever it is. So the ability to listen, I think, is something that it's really, really important when two people are coming together.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah,
I totally agree with that.
One very small comment that I would like to share from my experience, very in a short way, is that just my brothers, just ask women politely, gently, lovingly, ask them, if I do this, how would you feel? If I do this, would you like it? If I'm going to be like this, I really like it. And she's going to appreciate it. Because I asked her and she appreciated that I asked her. Because she could really express herself many a times, without really pointing fingers, but many a times I've seen women are very, very suppressed to not being able to express themselves, right? So they need to be asked. They need to be put in a place where they're stable, comforted, and then ask them. And then they'll flow like a free river. And then you'll get to know, okay, what this person is. And then you're doing her a favor and yourself a favor. So ask.
Totally. Yeah. I'd just like to, I know we're running out of time, but I'd like to kind of say this in the end, is that it's never one thing that works. And after having worked with a lot of couples who struggle with long-term relationships, the one thing I could say is know yourself first. Like Icha, you said that, you know what, I said I'm okay. And the acceptance is that, so the acceptance is not if I get married, I get married, I don't get married, I don't get married. The acceptance is that this is what I want and I'm ready to wait. And if I don't get this, I'm okay with myself. Because remember, with relationships, you have to be happy first. You have to be happy on your own. And when you're adding a person to your life, you're adding to become happier. You want to multiply. You don't want to divide that and become miserable and unhappy. To say, I was fine on my own. Why did I get into this relationship? Which is what happens with most people, because I was fine, I was working, I was happy, I was independent, and now I'm married, and this person turns around and says, you can't work, or you can't do this, or where are you? And I feel curbed. So we're diminishing ourselves. So we want relationships where we really grow. Somebody comes into our life and adds to it, not takes whatever we have already worked hard to build. And really that is what works with most people. It doesn't matter who you are. People keep having these belief systems, opposites attract, or I want somebody who's exactly like me. There is no formula. The formula is know what you want, know that you deserve what you want. You're not being picky, and the world is not a bad place, and you are going to find who you want. Be open, be honest, have these conversations, because when you meet that person, like you two have met each other, now it's just, you guys build whatever you want on top of this really solid foundation that you have. So I commend you for these wonderful conversations that you've had with each other, and this one we've had together. And I really wish you all the very best for your future together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Most welcome.
It was great talking to you and listening to your perspectives.
Yeah. It's also nice, like it's really nice to have it deconstructed, because I think a lot of these things we're probably subconsciously or unconsciously aware of, and it's just a matter of like breaking it down in a way that's easy to understand, So thanks for that. That was nice. It took us back.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing your wonderful story with us.
Nice. There is something that So there's something that we need to mention, but just okay.
So yeah, we would like to thank our viewers for sticking with us so long. If you made it till here, you're awesome. And thank you for listening to all of us. We would like to, before ending, we would like to mention there's an upcoming Wow to Wow of Relationships program in Kanha from May 22nd till 28th. It would be great if you guys can join to that. And we really hope that our conversations really helped you open your heart, and these experiences makes you find out your perfect matches. And we thank you so much for listening. Is there any final words from my better half?
No, just good luck. And it's a rocky road, but sometimes not also. But it's a process that you look back and be really thankful of. So enjoy it as much as you can, and yeah, and things will work out in whatever shape or form they have to. So yeah.
Thank you.
I totally believe in that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.